You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. We've got three things on our agenda today. We've got the opening weekend of the 100. There have been some pretty good contests so far, so we'll be chatting through that, talking about all the teams. We've got the Commonwealth Games heading towards its conclusion. England blew up in the semi-final. They blew up in the bronze medal match. So Ross Young, I think you were there for that. We'll talk through how that went. And India take on Australia in the final. And at the end of the show, we will talk about West Indies' sorry performance at home. Or at home, here in the USA, against India. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg in his Spurs shirt. How you doing, Ross?
We're top of the league, so I thought I might as well make the most of it, really. So, yeah.
Oh, is that what it's about?
Yeah.
I thought, did they play today?
I played yesterday, and I went to the cricket, and I thought, do you know what? I never get to wear like sports gear ever because I don't own that much of it other than playing sport. And I thought, do you know what? I've got this lovely old Spurs shirt from the year I was born, of all things, and decided to wear it.
Oh, it looks good on you. It kind of, because it's the same color as your background, it's shimmering in and out of focus, which is a bit weird, I imagine, for our viewers at home, but good nevertheless. Ross, can you run through a few messages for our listeners?
Yeah, you should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and we're on Patreon. We're, for some reason, the ECB have found in their infinite wisdom to give us press passes to some of the 100, and our coverage of that is going to evolve as we learn a little bit more about that stuff, right? But I think a lot of that stuff is going to be geared towards our kind of Discord channel and what's happening with the Patreon, etc. So. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff and much wider, then engage and sign up for Patreon, which is patreon.com/the Cricket Pod.
Yeah, definitely do that. We think going to speak to some players tomorrow, aren't we?
Quite possibly, yeah. We're off to Lords, aren't we?
If you are a Patreon, let us know what you want to know from the guys, and if the questions are appropriate, we will be your mouthpiece. Also, support for the Cricket Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. As we've said a few times, they're pretty good. We've all used them now. They've worked. Max sung their praises in the last show. I was thinking, Max was talking about how, like, using scissors and stuff. He sounded like one of those crazy umpires, not crazy umpires, like an umpire when they're trimming a bit of the seam off the ball. That's the vision I had in my mind. Now he's got the right tool for the job. You can too. With the code CricketPod, 20% off and free shipping. Once more, manscaped.com, code CricketPod for 20% off and free shipping. Ross, let's talk about the 100. We were there on Thursday night. I have to say, my Oval chasing quite a lot of runs. I didn't quite get there. We'll talk about some of the details of the match. But the first takeaway I had was just how good an atmosphere it was when we were live in the ground and Danny Briggs was teeing off, and then it went down to the last ball and there was a wide. There was a family in front of us jumping up and down, pumping the air. There was a fire cannon set off. It was everybody, like literally 25,000 people on their feet cheering. I don't think I'd ever seen that at cricket before.
Yeah, it was. I think that word electric, and I think worked quite nicely. You did you wrote a Substack, didn't you, on our kind of experience on there? And I thought that the drunks from work mixed in very well with the sugared up children. And the parents were very happy to be out of the house and not stuck watching Peppa Pig with little Hugo Chumley Water that they're trying to raise. And it's one of those things that, the cricket was good for the most part. I think there was a bit around 15, 20 balls where Cartwright and Cox were batting and everyone was like, oh my God, this is so dreary. We're not even going to try to win. And then all of a sudden it just burst back into life. And I think that the 100 is going to continue to flummox certain teams. And it was, what a spectacle.
It was fantastic. It was a match. It sort of defied all the normal rhythms of a cricket match. There was, in the first innings, it kind of ebbed and flowed a bit, and then London Spirit made like a mad sprint for a good score at the end. We were talking with 20 balls left. I think we were like 155 would be good going from here. What did they get? Like 170 odd. Like
they did really well.
It was loads of runs, and then in the second innings, Oval, for all intents and purposes, lost the game in the first 20 balls. Like what were they, like 20 for 4? Something
they lost
stupid
4
like that.
very, very quick wickets. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason Roy, first ball of the innings, or first ball of his innings anyway, like literally steering the ball straight to third man. Maybe we'll talk about him, maybe we won't. We have talked about him a lot recently. And then, as you said, Ross, there was this weird lull, wasn't there, where Hilton Cartwright and it's Jordan Cox. We sort of thought it was going to. We were talking about it, and we were like, they're just going to consolidate here because they can't afford to lose by 100 with the net run rate situation. So they need to lose by less than 40. So they're going to at least get to that point. But that period of consolidation just went on and on and on, and it basically took. I think Hilton Cartwright eventually played a couple of shots. And that and then Jordan Cox was like, "Oh, what? We're allowed to hit the ball in the air, are we?" And then he came to life. I mean, his innings went from completely match losing to just quite bad. But it was really sort of Danny Briggs, wasn't it? Who actually.
Well, Tom Curran as well. So Tom Curran with a very severe haircut, it's fair to say. No headband, but he hit 27 off 15 balls, and it was. Again, like it was fast stuff, right? You talked about that Cartwright and Cox partnership. That went on for about half an hour. So when you a half an hour period in the game where you're just a bit like, what is actually going to happen here? Because like they just didn't seem to even try and realize. I kind of thought they thought it was a 50 over game at one point. But fortunately, Danny Briggs came in. I didn't realize Danny Briggs could actually hit the ball into the crowd. Like, it was ridiculous. He played a ramp shot from a bouncer, and it went miles into the Galidari stand, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is on here."
Yeah. That was the only disappointing thing I thought. Talking about the Galidari stand, we think that's where the members were sitting. A lot of members did go home during the Hilton Cartwright Jordan Cox stand. That was the only downside was that it wasn't completely jam packed at the end. I think some people had kind of called it early. And also in terms of experience on the day. And then we'll talk about what we think of the two teams. I think maybe what we'll do is just give a little summary of everyone we've seen so far. Maybe give them a ranking from 1 to 8. Maybe not that much, but like, are they playoff contenders or not? Let's do that. What did you think of actually crossing the divide, going from fan to media?
I at the start found it a little bit challenging because I wanted to like Jack Crawley played an unbelievably good shot, and I think both of us were just like clapping. That was a fucking brilliant shot. And you realise that you kind of turned around and everyone else has kind of got the headphones in. They're sitting there writing, and it's
they're literally at work.
Yeah, and you
as
got,
we were.
And you got us being just like, right, we're just going to get involved here. I didn't find it that drastically different, if I'm perfectly honest. Like when I go to the cricket, and we'll talk about when I was at the cricket today, you are sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what's happening here with the field placements, like where are people hitting the ball, and kind of what you're doing. Like you're really getting into it. You're not just there to sink pints. And we didn't do that in the press area, did we?
No, we didn't have a single. We had a few cans of water.
Yeah, very hardcore. But I thought overall, like it was good. It was like I can't complain about it. It was a bit like it was one of those things. Right? I can't sit here and go, oh, it was really, really well organised. Like we knew exactly what we were doing with this. Like that's just not true. We turned up, figured it out as we went along, and no doubt the next few sessions will be even more exciting, and we'll get even more out of it. So yeah, it's very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, we had good seats. That's the first thing I'd say. Then the other thing was like, and it did, obviously this is because if you work in the press, like you don't just rock up at the game for the first time and like have to make your own way. You probably go with a colleague or something like that. But because we'd literally never done it, like we were let into the ground, and the assumption was we would know what we were supposed to do. Like, and so
they know where they're going.
It literally was.
They've bought a shirt for this occasion. They're fine.
It literally was. The woman who let us in, so we stopped at security for a bit. She disappeared, and it was like at the end of The Usual Suspects when the policeman's looking around for Kaiser Soze. It was like that. She was just completely fucking gone. We were like, right, where do we go? And then we actually went in with Ross's girlfriend, who was there as a spectator. She was like, "There's a sign there for media, so why don't you follow?" that? And then we got in there. We had to sort of blag our way in a little bit. These guys are on air in 8 minutes. And we're like, yeah, we're just going to go through. We're going to take that and just say, yeah, we're in the right place. It was good fun though. Right, Oval Invincibles and London Spirit. Oval Invincibles. Let's do them first.
Yeah.
Well, are they good?
Yeah, I thought they were in complete control. I think when we were previewing the game in the ground, obviously because we're media now, there was a bit where I looked at the lineup, so I thought, they have a chance here. I think it was easy to write them off based upon last year's performance.
Okay, so we're doing London Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do London Spirit first.
Sorry, I thought you said London Spirit. I heard London Spirit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of thought that actually their lineup made sense. Like they were full of batting talent that was actually going to try and hit the boundary, which is always a plus point when you've only got 100 balls. But we did say that actually their death bowling that looks non-existent, right? And that's pretty much what happened. Like Owen Morgan was back free from the England captaincy, back to his fluent best. They took wickets early against Oval, as we've talked about. But then almost like a flick of the switch, right? And all of a sudden, Oval were just like, hang on a minute, this is our home ground. Like we need to be battering our London rivals here. And yeah, Spirit's death bowlers fell to bits a little bit. And yeah, they were lucky, really. It was a great final ball from was it Jordan Thompson?
Yeah, it's Thompson. Yeah, he did that. He bowled the amazing over in the T20 Blast against. Well, I think Narayan was on strike for one of those balls. I think he was out. So he's definitely got one over on Narayan this season.
He has. What was interesting was that he was trying to bowl pretty much at Narayan's feet. He was trying to bowl a Yorker at his feet, and he tried to do it the first ball. It was wide, and it was pandemonium in the stadium. And then the next ball, and everyone was just like, "Why is he trying to bowl there?" And then the next ball, he bowls almost the perfect way. Hits Narayan on the outside of the foot, and Narayan doesn't move at the best of times.
No.
And it was a really great finish.
It was a really, really well bowled last ball, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they did nearly. I think they're going to be quite good fun. I suspect that London Spirit will not have enough. You have to win quite a lot of matches to finish in the top 3, don't you? Probably minimum 5 with a good net run rate, maybe 6. I suspect that they will succumb in a few matches a bit like this and maybe not make it because of the bowling. But there are, I have to say, a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Zach Crawley's really good value at the top of the order. I mean, obviously he's going to go away for England. That won't help them. Maxwell is Maxwell. He was a bit scratchy, but presumably just got off a plane, so we'll let him off there. Morgan. I mean, we were joking, weren't we? What, 500 runs? He's back in the England team for the World Cup, and then Pollard down the order. It's a pretty fun team.
Nathan Ellis impressed as well. Definitely passes the eye test. Like the data's there to kind of say he's okay, but he definitely passes the eye test.
Yeah. Oval then. So we've actually seen them twice now. Won one, lost one. Are you a buyer of Oval Invincibles?
I think they've got all the makings of a solid team. Like they've got 2 good spinners in Briggs and Narayan. I think having the Curran brothers is of benefit. Like Tom Curran looks a different player. Like I think it was like having a bit of time. Having time out of the game sometimes just gives you a chance to reset, right, and kind of reconsider and use that experience of what you've got. And yeah, he was really good today bowling wise. He did well in the previous game. And yeah, obviously Kevin Peterson's come out and said to leave Jason Roy alone. Like they'll just have to stick with him anyway. They're not going to drop Jason Roy. This is not going to happen. And Will Jacks is he's obviously going to be in the England team sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he was incredible today. I mean, that was the only thing I thought was not one of the only thing, but it was a little bit of a shame for me to not get to watch Will Jacks live in full flow and kind of be there to be able to say I was there before he was cool, because he is, as you say, definitely going into the England team probably in the next 6 months. I'd have thought.
He's not amazing against spin, but he is brutal against pace. And you saw it today with Welsh Fire's lineup. They just didn't have another spinner to go to. Like they had Zampa, and he was just like, "Well, we're gonna have to bowl the rest of these guys," and he just feasted.
He did. He absolutely feasted. I think they have a really solid chance. I'm not absolutely in love with Sam Curran at number 3 and stuff like that. I think there are a couple of weaknesses here, but they're a pretty functional team. If you're on the IPL scale, Oval Invincibles would do better in the IPL than London Spirit. I think even though London Spirit win on the day, I feel like Oval are a better team.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But again, what I like about London Spirit is that I get pure RCB vibes. And they've got Owen Morgan, who's kind of like he's gone through a horrible run of form, hasn't hit any runs, and that was kind of Virat Kohli before. They've got the big name players in terms of like Glenn Maxwell, Kieran Pollard. Like this is the team that people kind of you recognise, right? It might be a weird assortment of different pieces, but actually it's an exciting team. So yeah, again, both of them are going to be quite enjoyable to watch, I think, and yeah, hopefully I don't have to go and see Welsh Fire play. Because they are bad.
Yeah,
they are like.
We'll do that game in brief. I think we've talked about Oval enough here, and we'll say well done, Will Jacks again when we get to them. The next game on our what is it? Agenda? A ticket? What do we have here?
I have one more question around it. So
okay, all right, yeah.
you mentioned Sam Curran kind of batting at 3. Like I think he's trying to turn himself into a bit of a floating batsman. I think that's what they're trying to get him with. And you can see that potentially benefiting him when he gets to the IPL, potentially, and in the England team.
Here's what I'd say. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Sam Curran does turn himself into a floating batter and maybe becomes more of a batter in short form cricket anyway than a bowler. He certainly does appear to have the talent and the pop, and he bats left-handed. There's a lot to really like about Sam Curran. What I mean is that right now, at this point in time, who's going to win the 100? Do I love Sam Curran at number 3? I think it's great for England, and I think it's probably good for Sam Curran long-term projects to be in a high-profile tournament, doing that role, learning, showing whether he can or can't, with a view to being able to do it really successfully in the long term. A win now mentality. That's where I'm coming from.
Fair, and that's why like Riley Russo was kind of in that position in this game against Welsh Fire. And I just think that across this tournament we're going to see him in different roles, and I think that's just exciting. Sam Billings is someone who has to have a good time here. He has to have a good 100 if he's going to have any chance of playing in the T20. But I just think that boat has sailed for him. He doesn't look like an elite T20 player, but looks good. He looks one of the best batsmen in the BBL, so the Farmers League in Australia.
Yeah,
held his own. I think it's fair to probably say in the IPL. Didn't look completely out of place.
Yeah,
but that level of I don't know. He hasn't got the you just said. He hasn't got the pop factor, has he?
No, I don't see Billings ever scoring 40 off 20, and I feel like that's something you want in your locker as a T20 batter, because there are times when you do need to score 40 off 20.
Yeah.
It can't always be 50 off 35, really well constructed, useful innings, can it? Like sometimes it's got to be a little bit more agricultural. Friday night, Northern Superchargers, they beat the Manchester Originals. And this was a good game. And I think these two, Thursday and Friday, you really saw that this is a proper competition with some really, really excellent cricketers. There's a lot of star power on show. Perhaps the team with slightly less star power won. But we'll maybe argue the toss there. Manchester Originals batted first, set a decent target. We got to see Dre Ross hit the ball in the crowd a couple of times. But Northern Superchargers, in response, got off to a flyer. Adam Lyth, well, I mean, it will come as a surprise that Adam Lyth is good if you're maybe one of our overseas followers who remembers him from the 2016 Ashes or 2015 Ashes. Adam Lyth in T20 cricket is pretty decent. He wins man of the match. Northern Superchargers actually win with about 6 balls to spare. Decent cricket match though, Ross.
Yeah, it's probably and I know this is probably a bit of a stretch, but probably for one of the first times that you've seen a team like almost know that they had a game plan around their batting. Like I thought all of last year, every team was trying to figure it out. Birmingham Phoenix had that game plan of just we're going to hit you out of the stadium. Southern Brave were just a bit like we know our game. We've got strong individuals. James Vince is going to score all our runs, and we're going to see what happens around him, right kind of thing. Here, it was the first time I'd seen Northern Superchargers or kind of one of the teams in the middle bit of the pack kind of go out with real intent and kind of just go, do you know what, we are going to go and win this game. And I thought their lineup with some pretty old heads, isn't it? So it's the oldest team in the competition. Looked really solid. And having David Visa coming in to biff you at the end is not a bad person to have, regardless of how old he is.
No, it isn't. And I think the other thing is like all of these players. This is maybe where, to some extent, having Max on the show is useful because Max sees a lot more of these guys. He's a Blast member. He he follows domestic T20 cricket a little bit closer than us. But if you look up the numbers for like Adam Lyth or Michael Pepper or Harry Brook or David Willey,
they're all good.
Domestic level, they're all really, really, really good players. Like they would be excellent players to have in your franchise if you were an IPL team. Like they, Adam Lyth, if he's Indian, would be, paid quite a lot of money to open the batting for somebody. Like and I think this is in a sense why I don't know if the 100 is needed, or from a player point of view, I'd say the 100 is needed because the 100 gives Adam Lyth a platform to deliver what he's really good at for some pretty decent money in front of a TV audience.
Yeah,
like,
it's a millionaire maker, isn't it? That's what it is. Like this is the stepping stone. This is the look how good I am.
I'm not saying here that Adam Lyth's going into the IPL. I don't think that's really quite highly unlikely.
I know, but he also gets a bigger opportunity with more franchises around the world, right?
Sure. Sure. Or as a minimum, he gets like a nice pay packet for delivering a highly entertaining innings to an audience that want to see somebody smash the ball around. Like that's what, frankly, if you were a player here, the T20 Blast has not been delivering for you. Like it's not something that you regularly get to do. And I think some of those stories are sort of slightly more interesting than on the other side, Josh Butler getting 60 or Andre Russell hitting a couple of sixes. Like they're things we've sort of seen before. It's the other players that are like 95% as good, but don't have that 5% extra that you need to be elite, but can clearly play. And they sometimes provide the more compelling, interesting angle. I think on these games. And like like I said at the top, if you were just looking at star power here, you'd look at the two lineups and you say Josh Butler, Phil Salt, Andre Russell. I'm having a bit of that. But there's nothing wrong with a bit of Harry Brook, a bit of David Willey, a little bit of Visa and Adam Lyth. They're two decent sides, good ding dong.
Yeah, and they also like they've got big IPL names in there, right? Everyone knows who Faf du Plessis is. Everyone knows who Dwayne Bravo is. The only surprising bit I thought on that was that Callum Parkinson didn't play for Northern Superchargers, and I thought he was their best player last year. And they went with Rolf van der Merwe, who offers probably a little bit more with the bat. But it'll be interesting to see how that tournament progresses and how they start to manage that, because obviously they've got Adil Rashid, leg spinner. You've got two left armers as well. Quite a samey position there to be working with. Yeah,
you could. I mean, I think the other theme that I picked up from this match was that probably the team with the best batting lineup lost, but the team with the best bowling lineup won. I think that Northern Superchargers have at least three bowlers who are going to be quite viable. Dan Weston was on the other day and he said he liked Matt Potts as a T20 bowler. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not absolutely sure about David Visa as a 20 ball bowler in the 100 either. So there's maybe a weakness there. But I think as a bowling unit, you'd say it was probably a little bit better than what Manchester Originals brought to the table. And they say it, don't they? I don't know if it's true, but they say bowling attacks win tournaments and batting lineups win matches. You can buy into that as much or as little as you want, but it was certainly the case yesterday for that match.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think that your point around Visa bowling 20 balls, like it was that bit like Van der Merwe only bowled 10 in that kind of bit, and you've got Adil Rashid going at a run a ball, which is fantastic in this level of cricket. And I'm just a bit like, why put Van der Merwe in there if you're playing Visa in that hitting role and you've also got Adam Hose? It just, again, they'll be figuring out their teams, right? And there'll be injuries, there'll be illnesses and all that kind of stuff. But didn't think they got that quite right, even though they came out as winners. And Originals were not playing their best lineup, I didn't think.
Question I have for you on the Originals front: where was Richard Gleeson? Do you know if he was injured or something?
Maybe he was just at Butlins or something, well, with his kids. I've no idea, Jack. Let me quickly look. But again,
I looked it up. I just wondered whether you'd heard anything. Like sometimes you've heard things that I haven't. No, so that was the thing I thought was a bit of a miss from Manchester Originals. That the best player from the Blast, somebody who actually bowled quite well for England in the summer, they were like, nah, we're going to go with Tom Hartley and Fred Clarkson.
And that's what we do. But that's what we don't get, right? We don't get all that insight at the back. So it's we shall see.
Now we've got accreditation, we can go and ask these sorts of things, can't we? So that's good, Matt.
Why are you not playing your best bowler? Question from the Cricket Podcast.
Also Manchester Originals, they lost Hasaranga, which is a big shame for the tournament. Maybe the second best overseas leg spinner that was eligible for the tournament.
Well, he was one of the standout stars of the IPL, so he's he's definitely up on that list, isn't he?
Saturday we saw Trent Rockets beat the Birmingham Phoenix. Birmingham batted first. It was a bit of a weird innings. Trent Rockets actually, the seamers bowled really, really well, and Birmingham didn't have an answer to it. I thought, Ross, it reminded me of me in the swimming pool.
Because you can't swim?
No, from Birmingham's point of view, there's a lot of thrashing about, but not a lot of progress. Is one of the notes I've got down here. And I actually think Trent Rockets outthought them. I thought they had a really good plan with Daniel Sams and Wood.
Mm-hmm.
Bowling either really wide or back of a length, and a lot of slower balls mixed in on a little bit of a tacky surface. And they did well. The story, in a way, from this match, though, Ross, is Liam Livingstone v Rashid Khan. It was pretty. It's a pretty comprehensive victory for Liam Livingstone, wasn't it?
Well, it continues to be, right? And we always talk about how bowlers have bunnies, right? They have bunny, the batsman who they typically get out quite often. And in this case, it's roles reversed. Like Liam Livingstone is always licking his chops, isn't he, when Rashid Khan comes on to bowl? I think he's got the best record against Rashid Khan out of any single batsman, I think it is now. I
have the figures up here. It depends how you class best record. But he has scored the most runs in T20s off of Rashid Khan. 150. There's one more than AB de Villiers off 8 fewer balls. He's been out 4 times, so Rashid Khan has had his moments, yeah.
Good little battle.
But it's basically, yeah, like you say, Liam Livingstone, when he sees Rashid Khan come into the attack, he's like, I'm going to score 2 a ball off you or die trying.
Yeah. But that has been his whole philosophy. Like that is what his T20 stats in general are phenomenal for someone who's played across the last 8 seasons, I think it is. They are brilliant, and in the 100, like it has propelled him. Right, his performances last year for Birmingham Phoenix, like. They obviously made a massive impact on how much he got sold for to Punjab Kings, right? And yeah, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely brilliant. What I did find interesting around this Trent Rockets side is that they've got quite a few players who have played together for quite a long time, and so that you do see that cohesiveness. And like when Samit Patel is still rocking out, still playing, he puts Chris Dash to shame, who retired obviously, and they've played together for ages. I just find it quite an interesting proposition. Like maybe this is the tournament because it's 20 balls fewer. That some of the older hands in the game actually suit it really well, and you'll see those teams go a little bit further this year.
Because you don't have to stand around for so long. No one in a normal T20, Samit Patel, he's going for a Zimmer frame. Once you
he's another 4 overs.
Yeah, but here he bowled very well. Actually, Samit, he picked up the slack for Rashid Khan. Not bowling. Birmingham, I was a little bit concerned for the Phoenix, and you could see this coming. With the ball in hand, they looked pretty toothless. It's no Stone, no Wokes, no Milne.
I said it in the preview. That they're bowling this year. They've got a little bit unlucky with injuries, and unless something goes really right for them, then they're going to have to think of a different strategy. But it's very difficult to go and think of that different strategy when everyone kind of knows your weaknesses.
Yeah, it's Trent Rockets, they took it quite deep. I think they probably potentially could have gone a little bit harder. They were like 1 wicket down for ages. They were toothless, Birmingham. I don't think it was a good matchup for Birmingham. I would say this as well. that bowling attack without a serious wicket taker against David Milan, Joe Root, and Alex Hales, all of whom are capable of like batting for a long time if they need to, and didn't need to go particularly quickly as well. It wasn't going to be that hard, I don't think, for Trent Rockets.
I think the pitch comes into it a little bit, actually. And I think that those bits sometimes that you saw some of the wickets that Phoenix got out to maybe just wasn't quite there. And I think some of those bits might have just been like, do you know what, guys, we can chase down 143, but at a canter. And it was more the Sunrisers Hyderabad school of, do you know what, we've got this in the locker. We're not going to take any risks versus a different method.
No, there was definitely an element of that. I mean, Root, he ended with like a strike rate that doesn't look that good, but while the game was potentially losable, he got to 30 off 20 balls. He hit 2 boundaries, got to 30 off 20 balls, just scored off every ball and made Alex Hales run up and down to get to. So then when it was quite clear they were going to win, he just started taking ones. Don't know. There's if Roy's out the World Cup, I'm sure they were talking about this on the TV. Is Root back in the T20 World Cup 11, Ross?
Is Root or is Hales? Or do you think Hales
isn't back?
Root, I don't think Root is going to the T20 World Cup though.
Final point was just on Daniel Sams from this match. Pre and post that over where he got hit for 34 by Pat Cummins. Mm-hmm. So in 2022, before that happened, 17 matches, his economy rate was 9.2. When that happened, like from that point, I think it was the 7th of April, he's knocked a whole run off his economy rate. It's down to like 8.3. That's real. I mean, 8.3 is not. You're not like, oh wow, what an amazingly economical bowler. But for a guy who bowls a lot at the death,
not a slouch with the bat. Yeah, not a slouch with the bat.
Yeah,
either.
I think you're taking that. It's like he literally had some sense knocked into him, and
that's probably fair to me. But it just comes back to like the short format game. It's such high variance that sometimes you just go on a bit of a run. Like we get confused all the time around Chris Jordan, right? Chris Jordan was the worst bowler in T20. He was the best bowler, the worst, best. Like it's such a difficult game. So fair play to Daniel Sams.
Like last game, then Ross was today. Oval Invincibles bouncing back for Welsh Fire. Welsh Fire dropped their overseas spinner. Classic franchise mistake of going into a match with too many domestic players because you couldn't find anyone good to buy from overseas.
Well, Naseem Shah was picked up, wasn't he, from Pakistan? He was called up. That's why they ended up in
I get that. But like, surely there's somebody out there that you could. What about Nav? The I can't remember. His name is Nav. The Afghan bowler, the Poundland Bumrah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Can't they get him in?
Well, we can't be any worse. It can't be any worse than Hass name for Oval Invincibles, can he?
You know what? Welsh Fire, they bowled okay for a bit, and then sort of as you said earlier, Zampa finished, and Will Jacks went ballistic. I think he got 50 off his last 17 balls. It's the joint top scorer in the 100 ever with Colin Monroe or Munro. It's not Monroe, is it? It's not Marilyn Monroe. It's
Munro.
Marilyn Monroe. Welsh Fire, they started off okay, and then they lost. They've got Adam Zampa at 8. That's hilariously bad. I think, Ross, we talked about Oval earlier. I think Welsh Fire might lose every single match this season.
It is challenging. I think batting-wise, Clark, Banton, Pope, Duckett, Miller isn't the worst top 5. I think is a good. I think there might be a game where they just get lucky and 2 of those batsmen come off and they manage to do it. But I'll be surprised if they win any more than 2 games in this. And actually, I think they'll win 2 games.
Look, I think they will win a game. Like the balance of probabilities suggests that you are right. Like something will go catastrophically wrong for somebody else. But I think there is an actual chance that they've brought a team to the party that could lose all 8 matches.
I just don't understand that it's some of the decision making that actually ends up here. Like where you talk about kind of the makeup of their team, and who they end up kind of placing their foreign wild card or overseas wild card on. So they picked up Noor Ahmed, didn't they, from who's the Afghanistan low left armour. And again, I'm just like, surely if you're going to wild card them, play them. Like there has to be something here. If you're literally just going to keep them on the bench, what was the point in wild carding them in the first place? Just screams to me poor management, and yeah, it's just disappointing.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe just someone rang Gary Kirsten like in the middle of the night. Oh, Gary, we need to pick a random overseas player, and Gary's wakes up.
We had Case Ahmed last year. He was pretty good. Is there someone like him? And they've literally just they filtered it. That's all they've done. They filtered it on players. They've gone, Afghanistan, and Spinner, and they've just gone, fuck it, he'll do.
Yeah. It does feel a bit like that.
Yeah, a bit Ali Dia.
I mean, the other thing is, like, I know it's very fashionable to have an Afghan spinner in your team, but just because one of them is really good doesn't mean that like the fifth fucking choice is going to be a serviceable player. I wasn't like, oh yeah, they've been a great decision here. They'd have been better off picking up some random Australian, I think.
Well, but if there's other options who are available. Like, where's Mujibur Rahman? He's been dropped from Afghanistan's team as well. Like, you just like what happens in that space. But yeah, Ross, they're gonna struggle.
We're going to wrap up our 100 section of the show. Can you give me the three teams that you currently think will make the playoffs?
Oh, that's a tough question, that one. I reckon Southern Brave, because Southern Brave have got the best bowling lineup.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a real ding dong between Oval Invincibles and Birmingham Phoenix. I think they're two, and then the final one. I like the old men this year. I must admit, Manchester. Okay. I'm thinking
Northern Superchargers.
Yeah, either what they're more Manchester. Yeah, no, Northern Superchargers. Let's do it, baby.
So I go Southern Brave. I think Trent Rockets were better than I thought they'd be. Mm-hmm. One game for sure. Trent Rockets, and then I'm going to say Oval as the last team in. But it's really all to play for. I think the only team that I'm pretty sure are out of the running, Welsh Fire.
And let's finish on this point. We said in the preview that the quality of cricket will go up this year, and actually, I think from just this one round of games, I think it is better already.
Yeah, I've really loved it. I've actually been like, when's the game on? I want to watch this. This is no, I mean, like last year I was a bit like that, but the India were in England as well, and you can get a bit of a cricket overdose. But like today, I was like, well, I'm not going to do anything this afternoon. I'm just going to watch a Welsh Fire. Right, Ross, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with India and the West Indies and the Commonwealth Games.